Welcome to the Library Show. It's spring. Well, what does spring mean? For the Penn Wynne Library, it means their annual gala. And we have the corresponding secretary of the board, Julie Baxter, here with us today to talk about this very exciting event, which it turns out has been an annual event for some time. Julie, tell us how long this has been going on, please.
Thanks, Lenore. Yeah, it's been years. Last year we did virtually, but this will be maybe our fifth or sixth year. Appetite for Books has been happening at the spring, and it is our flagship fundraiser for the Penn Wynne Library. So it's an annual event that every year just kind of keeps getting bigger and better and more community oriented. We get more community members involved. So it's been a lot of fun the last few years, getting to be a part of it and getting to attend as a guest.
Seems to me that people are very eager for things that allow them to get out of the house and go to something. And in this post-COVID era, I think I read that this is very, what's a good word, COVID compliant, that they're outdoors partially?
Yes, yeah, it's actually all going to be held outdoors. The board's been working really hard to bring the beauty and excitement that we've really tried to hone in on when hosting inside of the library and shifting the ambiance to being a little bit more elegant and outdoor, or elegant and evening oriented. And we're bringing that outside. So there'll be, an opportunity, obviously, to socially distance a little bit better. We'll be outdoors, of course. And the board's really worked hard to make sure we get all the licensure so that we'll be able to have a lot of our sponsors participating fully in the event. And by that, I mean, because we do have Conshohocken Brewery, we have Chad's Ford Winery, we have all of these sponsors that'll be part of the event. So we've gotten our liquor license from the township, and we're really prepared to host, a real fun shindig right outside the library.
I'm going to ask you, is this a shindig for adults or for families?
Exactly, yes. So it's for anyone who wants to attend as long as they're over the age of 21, because there will be alcohol available.
Right. When you said alcohol, I said, okay, this is not one to bring your toddlers.
No. And it's in the evening. It's from 7 to 9 p.m.
I see that. I see that behind your head.
So yes. For a lot of us, that's bedtime. But I mean, we have, a lot of our families work together to commandeer childcare so that we can all enjoy the evening together. Because like I said, it's really a community-oriented event.
That's terrific. How do people get are there tickets that people have to get in advance?
Absolutely. You can get tickets at the door, but it's a lot easier, I think. And I think the price is also better. It's a little bit less expensive if you buy coupled tickets prior to the event. You can do that online. I'm standing in front of the website, but I'm sure we can get that website up. And if you just navigate to the Penn Wynne Library, there's a way to do it from there. And then, of course, you can go into the library and purchase tickets at the circulation desk.
Can I ask you, what do the tickets run?
Yep. If you buy the tickets in advance, either online or in person at the library, they're $35 for an individual, $65 for a couple. Or if you are purchasing tickets at the door, it's $40 a person if you come the night of.
So you don't get any, okay. $40 at the door, $35 or $65 online.
Right.
So if you decide that you're going with your spouse and your neighbor says, gee, I'd like to come too, they can come. They just have to be willing to pay $40 a head.
That happened to me. That exact story happened to me last 2 years ago, in fact.
Okay.
It was a good time.
Well, let me ask you another question, because people sometimes ask me this question in terms of fundraising events. Where does the money go to? Does it go towards the building, towards the books? What does it pay for?
Such a good question. Well, if you haven't been to Penn Wynne Library recently, basically since the pandemic, I would encourage you to come and check it out. We have a new children's librarian, Miss Danielle, who's there. I believe you had her on the show last month. She's phenomenal. You really can't go to the library and not see new children's programming. I have 2 young children. Every time I go with one, I bring the other, because I know that even though there's programming I know about, there's programming that's there that I haven't found yet that is a perfect fit or in some way will, intrigue my other child. So the Penn Wynne Library has such fantastic children's programming. And I speak to that from personal experience. We're constantly upgrading devices, figuring out ways to get people better access to the internet, able to access the internet in their own personal spaces, upgrading our printing facilities, just always trying to make sure that the people who are coming into our library are able to take on whatever it is that they need to do with the best technology. Another thing that we've been doing is acquiring more passes to events outside of the library. Science museums, arboretums, anything that we're capable of getting access to, a pass for our patrons to check out and to explore our surrounding areas and what the Philadelphia area has to offer. And I think you'll see if you come to the library or even just look on the website, how many fantastic options there are for our patrons to do outside of the library. So it's not just books and movies and e-readers and all the other wonderful things.
Well, it sounds like these are wonderful programs, but of course they do cost money, and the money that's raised from this event go to programmatic purposes. That's what I'm hearing from you. Okay, not just the purchase of books, but
no, not just the
programs,
books or new technology to read books or to interact with books. Lots of our community library, although it's fantastic for books, it's got a lot of other stuff going on.
You use the magic word. I often say that the libraries of today are community centers, not just libraries, not just places where people go to read books, although there's certainly a tremendous value in reading books. I myself happen to love reading books. That's why I do what I do. But people can do all kinds of things. They can do things electronically. They can do special programming. And some of this programming, of course, is for adults as well as for children. I don't mean to say or imply that the adults in our community are skimped on. They're not. There are lots of things going on for adults too.
Well, Appetite for Books is a great example of an activity that's taking place for the adult community, anybody over the age of 21. And I have to say, it's like one of my favorite things to talk about. I look forward to it every year, even before I was on the board. In fact, it was at an Appetite for Book event that I said to the president of the library board at the time, how can I get involved? This is so much fun. And so to tell you a little bit about the event, like I said, it'll be outside this year, which I'm really excited about. We're really pushing for maintaining that beautiful ambiance, which I think will be great to have at night while the weather's getting warmer. Our sponsors this year, so our sponsors are who are helping out the event in total. Jones Lang LaSalle, JLL, Pediatric Dentistry of the Mainline, Music Training Center, CrossFit of the Mainline. They're all sponsors of the event this year. We have some really amazing big ticket items for our silent auction, for our raffle. So part of the event is the mingling. Like I said, we're sponsored by Conshohocken Brewery, where we have Boardroom Spirits this year, which is a new sponsor. Chad's Ford Winery will all be there. There'll be wine, beer, interesting cocktails. And in addition to that, there will be these silent auctions going on where you can purchase tickets to participate. And at the end of the night, the raffle items and the silent auction items, some really amazing stuff. We have Philadelphia Orchestra tickets. We have an autographed Flyers puck, Penn State football tickets. There's a family photo session that you can, where a local photographer will provide a family photo session for you. Some really amazing family fun centers. There's day camps that are giving away weeks and soccer camps that are giving away weeks. Some really fantastic stuff that's like a huge driver for someone like me, and just seeing the fun and excitement that our community takes when participating in an event like this. So there'll be lots of fun food and treats that are getting donated, some really awesome community members. We have a hyper local baker from Care Package Bakes, who's actually based out of the Penn Wynne neighborhood, will be providing some of her really high-end, awesome pastries. Nothing Bundt Cakes will be providing treats. Federal Donuts will be providing treats. Sophie's Barbecue, Pinwheel Provisions, some really local names to really, like I said, build on that community that makes this event so much fun. I feel like if you live in this area, or if you're new to the area, this is really the event you want to be.
Oh, I love that. That's a great point, because I think that libraries are great access points for people to the community, to a particular group of people who share the interest. And basically, as the title goes, they love books. They love consuming books in whatever way it's possible, whether it's reading them, whether it's listening to them, whether it's watching videos, anything. There's lots of ways to be involved with books. Just let me back up for one moment. People can buy tickets until the last day at the library?
You can buy tickets up until the event is actually happening. You can walk up to the door if you decide that moment, hey, that's right, May 7th. It's the evening of May 7th. I'm going to head over there, check it out. You walk over, you'll see how much fun everyone's having, and you'll buy a ticket. If you're anything like me, I feel like attending the event almost ensures that you will attend it from there on every year after. It's so much fun. Wow. And it's just such a treat to get. I'm so grateful to be part of a community that not only has a library like Penn Wynne Library, but has an event like this where so much of the community is pouring in energy and effort to really make the night a success.
Oh, that's super. Well, it's a success because of volunteers like you and obviously many others who put this together. I mean, the staff does a lot of work on all these things. I know that because I've had the pleasure of working with Judy Saray on other projects. Judy is the head librarian at Penn Wynne, for those who don't know Judy, and my kids grew up with Judy, so I know what you mean. But it's a terrific event, and I wish you continued success with it. Thank you.
Thanks, Lenore.
Thanks, Julie, for being on. Stay tuned. We'll have more on Penn Wynne Library today. Welcome back to the Library Show. As you know, it's called the Library Show for a reason, because it's about the libraries. However, about a year and a half ago, I did what to me was a very meaningful portion of the Library Show. And that was an interview with my husband, David, who had just come out of the hospital after being in for 6 months with COVID, 5 of which he was on a ventilator. As you can imagine, he'd been very sick. Thank God. And thanks to all the doctors and the therapists and David's own strong will, he came out. And he came out without needing oxygen and pretty close to himself. A year and a half has gone by. And during that year and a half, people have come up to me and said how much they appreciated that show with David, how they watched it and how meaningful it was to them as it was for me. I thought it was worth taking another part of a show and talking to David about where he is now. It's very different from where he was a year and a half ago. And I think that notwithstanding the articles in the newspapers about long COVID, about people who've had this particularly difficult disease and how they're recovering, I think this is one person's story, which is of interest because you never know how one person's story might motivate other people. David, hello, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure being here.
Thank you, dear. It's not that you're so far away or that we don't see each other regularly. Obviously, we do. Let's start out with the big question. The big question is, how are you today as compared to a year and a half ago?
Well, that's a good place to start, Lenore. I think the first thing is I'm certainly more active now than I was a year and a half ago. When I just got out of the hospital, I could barely walk 100 feet with a walker. And I needed help with everyday activities, showering, dressing, eating. But now I'm able to do walks of at least 2 to 2.5 miles almost every day, weather permitting. We're fortunate to live right near a beautiful park, and I love being outside there and walking around the park. Additionally, to my endurance having improved, I've gained a few pounds due to your fabulous cooking, and that's something I'm going to have to watch in the future. The other thing is that my hand is better. If people watched, I noted that after getting out of the hospital, one of the nerves that supplies my hand and my fingers wasn't working. So I've had to become a lefty. And I think that's been a challenge, but my right hand has improved. I have had one surgical procedure to give me some more mobility on these joints called the metacarpal phalangeal joints. And I still can't make a fist, but I'm able to do things that I couldn't do a year and a half ago.
To me, who doesn't wear contacts at all, I think it's extraordinary that you learned to put in contact lens with your left hand. after so many years of doing it with your right. That is a degree of dexterity with the left side that is, it seems to me that that's pretty extraordinary.
Yeah, I was a little lazy this morning and didn't put the contacts
That's
in.
all right.
But
People could believe us that you can do it, whether you're wearing
I
contacts or
can do it,
glasses.
yes. Yeah.
What do you think the best thing has been about the last year and a half?
Well, I think the best thing is reconnecting with family and friends, because during that hospitalization period and immediately thereafter, when I got out of the hospital, we were at the height of COVID and we were basically insulated. We lived by ourselves, and contact with the outside world, family, friends, was absolutely minimal. But we've been very fortunate in the past few months to be able to see my sister every week. And I hadn't seen her for almost 2 years. We saw your brother very frequently in the past few months, and as well as dear friends who certainly called and texted and emailed, but the ability to actually press the flesh and see them one-on-one was very, very wonderful for my psyche.
Okay, yeah, it is great to have family. David, what, as a retired physician, what have you learned about COVID from your own experience? What have you learned about the healthcare system from your own experience being a
Oh,
patient?
well, being on the other side of the bed as a patient was most educating. You know, in medical school, we had very little contact with ancillary personnel, such as occupational therapists, physical therapists, speech therapists, respiratory therapists. I really didn't know much about how they function. But being in the hospital for 6 months, I saw these people every day. And I saw how much they did for me, teaching me how to walk again, how to talk, how to eat, how to swallow, how to use my hands. It was really a tremendous experience. And I gained insight into the physicians who took care of me at the 2 hospitals I was at. They were incredibly dedicated, smart, caring, wonderful people who saved my life.
Well, we have to do a shout out to Susan Gregory. Dr. Susan Gregory is head of the ICU at Lankenau, where you were for 2.5 months, and it was her decision making. And if she were sitting right next to me, I know she would say it wasn't just me, it was the team, because there was a whole pulmonary care team who took care of you. And but she was the one who interacted with me at that time and said, we're going to start you on steroids. And it was the steroids, which is now a common treatment for this, which really turned the tide for you. And we are very grateful for that and very grateful for her, both farsightedness and attention to you. I think that's one thing about all the doctors. Everybody paid a lot of attention to you as a person. I don't know if you in the bed felt that as a patient.
Oh, sure. I did, because you could tell the care that they gave me and the concern for my betterment was very, very evident. And if I had Dr. Susan Gregory here, I'd give her a big hug and a kiss.
Yes, and Mary Porteous being the other one. These two doctors who each did a Freudian job, a terrific job of really taking care.
Dr. Ben Abramoff at Good Shepherd Penn Partners, Dr. Andy Paris, Dr. James Parks. There was just a whole slew. And if I forget somebody, I'm sorry, but there were so many of them coming in and out all the time. But they really did save my life.
I'm going to put in a 2 cents thing here. The reason there was a whole slew of them is because every Monday there was a new doctor. In fact, every Monday there were 2 new doctors taking care of David. So that the old idea, the idea that I grew up with of a doctor taking care of somebody just as one person through one illness, that's not happening anymore. The doctors keep rotating and rotating. And so the patient sees a lot of doctors over the course of a long-term illness, as this was. David, I know the answer to this, but maybe you could say it for the people in the audience. Have you been vaccinated and boosted?
Oh, certainly. There was some question about vaccination for me considering the severity of the disease. But a very dear friend of mine who's a physician said, David, you need to get vaccinated after we found out that your antibody level was relatively low. So I am vaccinated and boosted, and I certainly encourage everybody out there who's listening to please get vaccinated. It's not only for yourself, it's for your friends, your family, your coworkers, and especially important for the general community. If we had a higher percentage of people being vaccinated, maybe we could finally beat this COVID thing and develop herd immunity. But we're not there yet. And it's difficult for me to understand the reticence of so many people not to get vaccinated. It doesn't change your DNA one iota. It's nothing being put in your body that's bad. We all have vaccines to protect us from serious diseases. No vaccine is 100% effective, not even polio. But if you do get vaccinated, you know that your chances of being seriously ill, of having to go to the hospital, put on a respirator, or even death is absolutely minimized to the best that we know how. So I encourage everybody out there to please get vaccinated.
David, I want to go back to what you said at the beginning of that statement, and that is about the antibodies, that when you and I both had a blood test and our antibodies were not so wonderful, despite the severity of your disease, despite the fact that I had COVID too, but a much more mild case. I think there are a lot of people who think that, oh, if only they get COVID and they get antibodies in their bodies, they will last forever, they will protect them. But antibodies don't provide the level of protection that vaccination does. Isn't that right?
Yes. The best protection you could have is antibodies, natural immunity secondary to having the disease, as well as being vaccinated and boosted. That's the best you can do. That's the best we know how. And that's the safest you can be, which with this disease, which is protean in its manifestations. It's amazing how some people, like our granddaughter, had COVID. She didn't turn a hair. She never knew it, but she had to get tested because her father had the disease, to the severity of the disease that I had. It varies tremendously, and you can't predict in one individual who would get mild disease and who would get severe disease.
Yeah. So for people who think that, oh, well, I'll be immune because after all, I've lived to this age and I'm hardly ever sick. And I read the story of someone like that. And the reason I read her story is because she died of COVID. So it is important to be vaccinated, and Philadelphia, and masks are helpful too.
Absolutely. Masks can continue to be part of the preventive package to help keep you safe.
And I just want to say one thing. David has, you're not, pardon me, the skinny marink you were when you left the hospital a year and a half ago. You put on some weight. But I also think that you're lucky because unlike some people who have long COVID symptoms, you don't have problems with your sense of taste and smell.
No, I was very fortunate. And I don't suffer from the brain fog many people do have.
Yes, well, I'm thrilled that you're back with us and you're able to talk and be on the show.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome, honey. All right, thank you. And that is the end of the library show for today. I hope you'll pardon this advocacy for vaccines, but I really feel strongly about it, and you can see why. Thanks for tuning in to the library show. Bye-bye.